All right, if you've spent any time at all in a spreadsheet, you know the move. You write that perfect formula, you grab that tiny little square on the corner of the cell, and you just drag. It feels good, sure, but it's also, kind of fragile. Today, we're going to move from that fragile world to something truly dynamic. See? This right here, the classic drag and fill. It's totally fine for simple stuff. We've all done it a million times. But what happens when you need to do something a little more complex? What happens when this reliable old method when it just breaks?
For a long, long time, the go-to answer for avoiding the drag and fill was a function called ArrayFormula. And look, it's powerful, for sure, but it has this one huge weakness, especially when you start nesting other functions inside of it. Let's look at a really common problem that trips up tons of people.
So our goal here seems simple enough. For each number in column A, we want to divide it by 5. But, and here's the catch, we want to make sure the result is never less than 0. So we're asking for the maximum of either our calculation or 0. Wrapping it in ArrayFormula feels like the right move, but look at the output. It's just flat out wrong. It's spitting out the same number over and over again. So what gives? Okay, here's the culprit. Functions like max or min or sum, they're what we call aggregate functions. They are built to look at a whole bunch of data and boil it all down to just one single answer. And as this Stack Overflow user puts it so perfectly, the max function basically steals the entire range, collapsing everything and completely breaking that row-by-row calculation we wanted ArrayFormula to do. And that really is the heart of the problem, isn't it? We need a way to tell our formula, hey, listen, I know you see that whole column of data, but I need you to just focus. I need you to process it one single cell at a time. And that, my friends, requires a totally new way of building our formulas. And that new way of thinking, it all starts with a function called LAMBDA. Now, I know, the name sounds a little intimidating, like something out of a dense computer science class, but the idea behind it is actually incredibly simple. It's the first major piece of our modern solution.
So what is it? A lambda is just a way to create a tiny, custom formula template. The syntax is super straightforward. First, you give it a name, which is really just a temporary placeholder for a value, and then you write the formula expression, which is just the calculation you want to perform on that placeholder.
But here's the thing about LAMBDA. On its own, it doesn't actually do anything. It's like you've written down a set of instructions, but you haven't told anyone what to apply those instructions to. It's basically a brain without a body. To make it do some work, we need a helper function. And that helper is map. Map is the function that takes our little lambda brain and gives it a job to do. It's the function that's going to walk through our data, piece by piece. I love this analogy. Think of map as a conveyor belt or an assembly line. It takes our entire column of data, picks up the very first cell, sends it over to our lambda to get processed, and then puts the result down. Then it grabs the second cell, does the same thing, and on and on and on until the entire range is finished. So let's actually build this thing. Step 1, we start with map, and we point it to our data range, A2 to A. Step 2, right inside it, we define our lambda. We create a placeholder, let's call it something obvious, like cell value, to represent each number as it comes down that assembly line. And finally, step 3, we just write our original formula, but instead of referencing the whole range, we use our handy cell value placeholder. And would you look at that? It works. A single formula sitting in just one cell is now dynamically calculating the correct result for the entire column. It completely solved our aggregation problem because map makes sure that the max function only ever sees one value at a time. This is that aha moment. It just clicks. So you might be thinking, why go through all this trouble? Well, ArrayFormula is fine for really basic math, but map with LAMBDA is just way more readable and way more powerful. Using named placeholders like cell value makes your formulas so much easier to understand 6 months from now. And it's literally designed from the ground up to handle this kind of complex row-by-row logic where ArrayFormula just falls apart. But wait, there's more. LAMBDA isn't a one-trick pony that only works with map. It's actually the engine behind a whole new family of modern array functions. Let's take a quick look at another incredibly useful one, scan. Okay, check out this classic spreadsheet problem, calculating a running total. For every single day, we want to see the total cumulative sales up to that point.
The old way of doing this involved these really weird, complex formulas that were super easy to break. The modern way? It uses scan. Now, it looks a lot like map, but its lambda has two placeholders. The first one, let's call it the accumulator, is the magic part. It remembers the results from the previous row. The second one is just the value from the current row, the current sale. So all we have to do is tell our lambda to add the current sale to the accumulator. And just like that, boom, one scan formula fills out the entire running total column correctly. And the best part? If you add new sales data at the bottom of the list, it all updates automatically. No dragging, no fixing. It's just another perfect example of how these functions make your spreadsheets so much more robust. All right, so we've established that map and scan are insanely powerful, but as your formulas get more and more powerful, they can also get really, really long and difficult to read. And this brings us to the final level of spreadsheet mastery, the true game changer. I mean, seriously, just look at this monster of a formula from a Stack Exchange post. It is incredibly powerful, no doubt. But could you imagine trying to explain what this does to a coworker, or trying to debug it yourself 6 months from now? There has to be a better way to handle all this complexity. And there is. It's a feature called named functions, and this is where it all comes together. This lets you take any of these complex lambda-based formulas, save it, and give it your own simple, descriptive name. You're not just writing a formula anymore. You are literally creating your very own custom function right inside Google Sheets, no coding required. You really can't overstate how huge this is. Like this Reddit user says, this is a game changer. It allows you to hide away all that nasty complexity and makes your spreadsheets cleaner, your work more reusable, and frankly, just way more professional. And this is the dream state. That ridiculously long formula from before is now hidden away inside a beautiful, simple function called equal calculate category. Now anyone can read this, anyone can use it, and all that complex logic only had to be built one time. This, right here, is the peak of modern spreadsheet design. So think about where we've gone. We started with the fragile dragonfill. We blew past the limitations of ArrayFormula. And now we're in a world where you can literally invent your own dynamic, readable, and reusable functions. You're no longer limited by the built-in tools. You can build the exact tool you need right inside your sheet. The only question left is, what are you going to build first?